everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to decorate this winter themed cake. I'll show you some techniques and different kinds of edible materials I used to decorate this cake to inspire you. And also, important note to all my viewers, do remember it's not just a piece of cake, it's a work of art. With that note, let's get on with the video. Alright, to start off, I had my cake covered in fondant the night before. Now when I go to paint on it, it's nice and dry for me to paint. Now if you're going to paint on a fondant covered cake, I suggest you let the fondant dry out for a couple of hours before you start painting on it. Otherwise, it's a freshly covered fondant cake. When you go to paint, it will give you a lot of indents. And I'm no professional painter. Before I started painting on this cake, I watched a lot of videos to understand how professional painters mix their colors and how they approach on painting scenic backgrounds, how they handle their brushes. So if you're not a great artist, do watch a couple of videos to understand how they approach on painting scenic background. It does helps a lot. And one more thing, when you go to mix your colors or dilute your colors, always it's better to use clear alcohol rather than water. Water does take time to evaporate, and using clear alcohol will speed up the whole process. As you can see, I covered the whole cake with white mixed with tiny bit of blue and red to get the hint of gray purple color that you would see on a snowy scenic background. Now once I finish coloring the whole cake with that shade, I'm adding pine trees. Now for the pine trees, I'm going after a very shadowy background, a pine trees that you would see from the far distance. So to get that color, I'm adding a lot of blue and red and little bit of white to get different shades of gray purple colors to add layers of pine trees on the cake. I'm using round and square brushes, and I'm using the tip of the brushes just to slightly dab on the cake to get that cone shape of the pine tree. So a couple of useful factors to talk about when you're painting on fondant covered cakes. The first thing is which medium you're gonna frost your cake with. Now ganache is better for me, in my opinion, than buttercream because it sets solid and it loves you and gives you more time to work on your cake. Whereas buttercream, if you do not work in a temperature controlled room, is gonna melt faster. Thereby it affects the fondant and it makes the fondant soft, and when you go to paint, because the fondant is soft, the color might bleed, or it will take long time to dry the color. So, and also you need to put it in between layers. You'll have to refrigerate it. Now once you put the painted cake in the fridge, when you bring out, make sure the temperature, outside temperature, matches the temperature in the refrigerator. Otherwise what's going to happen is the color's gonna bleed. And also it all depends on how fast or how slow you can paint on your cakes, or how complicated your design is gonna be. So all those factors does matter when you go to paint on fondant covered cakes. One more thing that I would suggest if you're going to paint on cakes is to practice that exact image on a piece of paper. Use the exact food colors that you're planning to use. Get to know your brushes, the tips, how to handle the brush tips, what kind of brush stroke that all those brushes gonna give you. Mix the colors, do the exact design on a sheet of paper before you go to paint on your cake. It will save you time and there is less chances you making a mess on the cake. And also when you go to paint, don't start on the front of the cake, always start on the back of the cake. If you make a mistake, it's the back of the cake and you can always cover it up. Now there are so many ways you can get the effect of snow onto a cake. One is royal icing like I'm using here, or you can use any kind of buttercream. Swiss meringue buttercream is ideal, or else a meringue base, that is whipped up egg whites. And another way is using desiccated coconut. Now all of these mediums you need to see the cost, how much you're going to charge, is it worth doing that, how long is the cake is going to sit outside. So all those factors does matter when you come to pick and choose the medium that you're going to use as a snow effect. Now here I'm piping some royal icing on the trees to get that snowfall effect on the trees. Even though I did it, I was not so sure about that. I was happy with the way I painted the snowfall on the trees. I just wanted to see how it looks like, what's the outcome is gonna be. So you let me know your thoughts in the comment box. I was 50-50. I was happy with it and not so sure about it as well. Alright, here is the exciting part. Now I'm gonna add a fairy to the cake. Now this is sort of a branch that I made out of twisting two thick gauge floral wires, covered it with foil and then covered it with modeling paste. I have two barbecue sticks as support because the fairy is gonna be a bit too heavy. And always make sure when you're inserting things to the cake, make sure that you sterilize it. I have clear alcohol. I'm gonna wipe the two barbecue sticks before I insert it to the cake. Now, if anyone wants to know how I made the branch, let me know in the comments box. I'll do a quick shot to show you how I made the branch. Once I finish attaching the branch to the cake, I'm piping some royal icing onto that to get the snow effect. Earlier I mentioned that you can also use desiccated coconut to get the effect of snow. Here I have some desiccated coconut mixed with some fairy sprinkles to get that shiny effect. And I'm sprinkling that onto the branch. Since the royal icing is wet, the flakes gonna stick well onto the branch. Here I am using isomalt to make some elements that goes on the fairy and on the cake, like her wings, her crown and some snowflakes. Now you can use fondant, gum paste or royal icing to make all of this, but it does not look natural. It looks very opaque. I'm aiming for some fantasy transparent look, so I'm using isomalt for that. If you don't have isomalt, you can also use melted sugar as well. Now in this cake, I'm using different types of edible materials to decorate the fairy and the cake, like wafer paper as a fabric to drape on the fairy and some edible lace to dress her up and isomalt. Now I'll do a separate video to show you how I make those and how to use it to decorate your figures and your cakes. And also the fairy, I'm not gonna be showing you in this video, otherwise it'll be a super long and boring video. So I'll have a separate video done to show you in detail how I sculpt the figure as well. Alright, this is wafer paper. Like I said, I'll do a separate video to show you how I made this. Now I'm using this as fabric to drape onto the fairy. Now to make it a little bit more pliable and for me to manipulate it the way I want, I'm spraying little bit of water. You cannot use lot of water on wafer paper because they're gonna absorb it and it's gonna go smushy and sticky. You won't be able to use it. Alright, final few touches here and there, and here we are with the finished fantasy / winter themed cake all done. Now it is a work of art. It does take time, but with every little detail that you put into your cake, it's gonna look amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a few things along the way and got inspirations. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll catch you guys soon with another one. Until then, take care you guys.